I'm feeling kinda lonely in the still of the night. Hold me, everything's alright. I need my baby's loving and I need it bad. If I can't have my loving, I'm gonna go mad. And if you're making me mad, but don't know what to say, hold me, everything's okay. Kinda lonely in the still of the night. Hold me, everything's alright. Well, I need my baby's loving and I need it bad. If I can't have a loving, I'm gonna get mad. Well, you know that my bucks are not the worst of my body. Hold me, everything's alright. Nearly every day. Hold me, everything's okay. You're 24 hours on the telephone line. Hold me, everything's just fine. I need my baby's loving and I need it bad. If I can't have a loving, I'm gonna get mad. Oh, well, you're screaming, you holler to get out of your side. Hold me, everything's alright. Hold me, everything's alright. Hold me, baby, everything's alright. My head's been in a spin. Oh, water, what am I gonna do? 'Cause I love my loving baby, but tonight I'm loving you. Well, I got a steady baby and she's so good to me. When she says get ready, baby, what you do to me? Well, I've been traveling down the road and the nights get cold and long. And a lonely road can make a man go wrong. That's what I meant. Well, I really need your loving, though I know that it's a sin. Hot water, what am I gonna do? 'Cause I love my loving baby, but tonight I'm loving you. Me and sing, you can feel it burning up like fire on my butt. Hot water, what am I gonna do? 'Cause I love my loving baby, but tonight I'm loving you. Well, my baby knows me like a book. She know I've done her wrong. She'll look me right into the eye. Let's just say so long. She knows when I am a telling lies, so there's no need to try. When I get home, she's gonna say goodbye. Since the day I met you, my head's been in a spin. Hot water, what am I gonna do? 'Cause I love my loving baby, but tonight I'm loving you.
Hey, Paul, guess where we're at?
Well, I know where we're at, and I'm very excited to be here. And maybe some of the Ramblers remember us saying where we were going to be this week. But we're very honored to be at the Smith residence up here in Joshua Tree.
Yeah, take a look there. There we got TK Smith there with our good friend Big Sandy.
Hey, and it's been a long time since TK and I have seen each other. For those of you who might not be familiar, for the few of you who might not know, TK Smith was part of a group of us musicians in the early 80s who came up in the rockabilly scene. I had a band called the Moondogs with our fellow host, Tom Almanzar. TK had a band at the time called the Stingrays, and he just within that scene, his playing stood out from the pack, and it just continued to do that over the years. TK and I eventually started, along with Wally Hersom, started the seeds that grew into Big Sandy and the Fly Rite trio. That was later in the 80s, and then kind of laid the groundwork for what became my career path. And then TK continued playing, but also developed his other skills in making guitars, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and moved out to the desert, and it seems like he's been thriving out here. His reputation is really spread around the world as a guy who just excels in everything he does, a craftsman who's focused on detail. But he's really thriving out here in the desert, I think, like a desert flower, and I think it's done you some good. So, ladies and gentlemen, TK Smith.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for being out here, and I know you kind of, in general, like to lay low anyway, but during COVID and all that, you were particularly low key.
Yes, I mean, it was kind of right up my alley, if you know.
Oh, you're like.
Yeah, no, for really 15 months, we haven't really seen just a handful of people.
Yeah. Well, I said, to me, it seems that well, I know that you were always great at everything you did, but to me, I felt like you really blossomed once you came out here to the desert and started a new life out here. I think all this creativity came pouring out of you in music and in your craftsmanship and everything that you've made. How long have you been living out here?
Going on 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
Wow. It's funny looking back because it didn't seem like it at the time, but it feels now looking back that we were kids when we first started.
We were kids.
Hanging out.
I look at pictures sometimes, and we were kids.
Yeah. Now I mentioned the band that you were in when we were all part of the Southern California rockabilly scene. That was
Stingrays.
The Stingrays.
Yeah.
And how did that come together with that group?
So one of the guys, the drummer was a neighbor, and Skeeter he went to my school, and actually the two other guys went to my high school, and we kind of just we had I had heard the Gene Vincent stuff, and I really wanted to start doing some, we were playing just top 40 20 flight rock,
like a lot of us were.
Yeah. And we just did that, we started. There was really only a couple places to play, like Radio City, and that's kind of where we
used
first
to be a big hangout.
crossed paths. Yeah.
Now, you must. It's funny. I will say this, that for as many years as we've known each other, we've just sort of been experiencing the moment. We've never really sat down to find out about each other's history or what. I don't even know. Did you play in any other groups before the Stingrays?
Before no, that was kind of. I used to play in guitar folk mass, so I kind of knew a little bit about guitar, but I really didn't start playing lead guitar stuff until I heard the Cliff Gallup, Gene Vincent stuff. So that was probably like, my senior year, 81 or so.
So would you say Cliff Gallup was the first one that really caught your ear?
He's what really made me want to get into like rockabilly type guitar playing.
And it's not like it is now. Obviously, you really had to seek it out. And did you just like sit down with those records? And
yeah, I was. So at first, you remember when I think it was one of those compilations came out with a picture of Gene Vincent, but they had a guy playing a Telecaster.
Oh,
it's from like a movie. I think.
Yeah.
I think he played for Gene Vincent. I can't think of his name, but maybe for only 2 weeks.
Right.
And a lot of those records that came out had the wrong info on the back. Like who was playing them.
Yeah.
But so for, probably a couple of years, I thought Cliff Gallup played a Telecaster. But that's, just doing that got me started. And
But I remember, because we would all, those were our teenage years, and we were just, partying and, having a good time, chasing girls.
Being stupid.
But really, when you started playing, your band be on stage, for a lot of us, we all like turned our head and looked towards the stage. But were you like in search of a certain sound? How did you, just by trial and error? Or?
At that point, I was just trying to copy the records.
Yeah.
If really for a long time, that's all I did. I played with a couple bands and we just played the covers. And then really until I met you, because I know you wanted to play that style, but, play songs that you were writing yourself and kind of do your own. I took lessons from a guitar teacher that told me it's good to copy solos, but try and make them your own thing,
Okay,
so that's kind of fit with what you were doing. And
Yeah.
no, I was glad we hooked up.
I feel like it took me a long time to actually learn that. That's such a kind of an obvious thing, but over time you learn you got to do your own thing.
Of
You
course.
let that other stuff shine through, and sometimes you can't
Or
help it coming
influence you,
through.
yeah.
But,
So when when Moondog started, were you doing covers mostly, or when did you start doing your own kind of sound?
So-
Because when I met you, you had already kind of starting doing your own. Like the Shambles had a lot of original songs, and
well, the Moondogs were already an existing band.
Moondog,
Um,
before you.
Before I was in the picture, yeah. And they had been playing together, and I believe in another band before that. If I'm not wrong about that, right?
Yeah, we were in another band, Big Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you started like at your early teen, like 14 or something. Didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, we started at like 14.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I first saw TK at Radio City, and he did Rock Around the Clock. You did the solo like note for note, and like all of us weren't that good.
Well,
So-
you were pretty good, man. I don't sell yourself short.
Hey, TK, what do you remember about the first time meeting Robert?
Well, so we kind of met at Radio City.
Yeah, but it wasn't like-
we didn't really talk, and I'm sure we played at maybe one or two shows together, but.
Well, the thing, and this is another good point to bring in this thing. For some reason, there was a divide with some of the bands because I and Tom, we were in a group called the
It's like a
Wildcats.
gang, yeah.
You guys were a TED.
It was a different
band.
gang,
A lot of your
Yeah.
friends and
Yeah.
at least one of the members were
Two of
in
the
group
members,
called
yeah.
the TEDs.
And there were fights sometimes, right? Or
What? Yeah,
chain
we'd
fights.
have some brawls sometimes. So I probably
So
wasn't
stupid.
supposed to be talking to you.
Right.
That was so silly.
Yeah, you guys were like you were a Wildcat band.
Yeah, there was always trouble in the parking lot sometimes, and it was just like a bad '50s movie or something.
that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was visualizing the band right now, but I can't remember what guitar did you have at that time?
Well, my first electric guitar was this $99 Harmony, and I didn't know anything at that
Yeah.
time. We were going to a pawn shop in Pasadena, and so why is this Gretsch, $600, and why is this Harmony that looks almost the same? Why is it only $99? And
Yeah.
I didn't know the difference, So I had that, but then pretty shortly after, I got this Epiphone Broadway that I had on the early Fly Rite trio stuff. It's kind of an art style, the Sunburst.
So when did you get that guitar?
Pretty soon in the Stingrays.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know the amount of time, but maybe a year after we started. And I paid I thought it was crazy. I paid $600 for it.
All right. Yeah. Well, and it was a good example of it's always nice to have a nice instrument to play with, but you always had something in your hands that just the sound came through.
Yeah.
I've heard you play different guitars, and it's still the TK Smith
Your fans
sound,
kinda
really.
come- well, but I do remember going from that $99 guitar and then switching to that $600 guitar, and it just played so much easier.
It just
and
made a world of difference.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Maybe it felt more of a
Just
difference
felt-
to us. It just all sounded great.
Yeah. And I remember too, the first time I found out about Echo, that was at Radio City, and I remember you remember the Red Devils, of course.
Yeah, man.
But seeing was it Dave Lee was the guitar player?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Lee.
Yeah, and I remember he had an MXR, little green box, and I thought, holy shit, that's. Oh, I don't know. Are we allowed to cuss here? I don't know.
Yeah.
So after I parted way with the Moondogs, and I know you went on to do other things throughout the '80s. What are some of the groups or situations
Well,
you found yourself in musically?
After the Stingrays, you mean? or-
Yeah, through the rest of the '80s until
Well,
we started playing.
So, I moved away for a little while, and But when I came back to LA, I went to San Clemente, so it's really not that
Okay.
far, but I didn't really play music at that point. But when I came back, I hooked up with Levi Dexter.
Okay.
And so he's the guy that first, he made a cassette. I would go listen to records at his house, and he had a pretty good record. Like, he was the first guy that played Jimmy Bryant for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he made a cassette tape, kind of like what you guys used to do,
Yeah.
And
Like,
Jimmy
Jason
Bryant,
Goodman
and he
was
had
that
all the
guy.
Joe Clay stuff I had never heard before. That stuff was on there, like How Come, it's not How Come, that's Thumper Jones, but the Joe
Yeah, Doggone It.
DuckTales, and Doggone It. And I just love that stuff.
What year was that you started hanging out with Levi Dexter?
So it was probably middle 80s,
Okay.
know. And I played a few shows with him, maybe. And then shortly after that, I hooked up with Russell Scott.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't even know you played with Russell Scott.
Well,
Yeah, that's how we
that's
met.
how we got to know, you and I got to know each other better when you were playing with Russell Scott. And it's something about Russell, and boy, what a talent that he's always been. I wish he was out there
I love
doing
playing
it more right now.
Russell,
He's been
yeah.
playing bass for other artists. But he was such an important part of our scene as
Yeah.
well. He was of
Great
our group
singer.
of friends. He was the first one to put out a record. Put out
Yeah.
45 in 1985, and he always had a great ear. You're one of the handful of really great guitarists that passed through his band.
Yeah, he had a lot of guitar
Yeah,
players.
Later there was Eddie Perez who went down to play with the Mavericks.
Still
and,
plays with Dwight Yoakam now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And
That's wild.
Gene, Eugene Jaramillo played. Eugene Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
Gene.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, playing
I
played with Dwight Yoakam.
I forgot about
Yeah.
Eddie Perez. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
But yeah, there's some
Yeah.
great pickers that have passed through that band, and you certainly were a standout.
Oh, thanks, man. It was good times playing the Shamrock, and I'm trying to think how long I did it for. I'm kind of maybe a year I did it, or a couple of years.
Well, Tom, you and I have talked about this. Looking back on those years, like one summer in your memory,
Yes.
I mean, it felt like years, but you look back on the dates,
Yeah,
it's
it was
like,
like
no,
a
it was
couple months
only a few
apart.
months we were doing that. It
Yeah,
just
that's
seems
probably
true.
what it was like. I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Can you tell us a little more about how you guys started jamming besides
Well,
Russell
and there's
introducing?
another band I played with too, which was a Western swing band, Paul Greenstein, and that was actually as far as making money. He was kind of hooked up in the movie business because he owned Millie's Diner on Sunset, and so we got a lot of these rap parties. We actually did the first 2 seasons of the show Seinfeld. We played as warming up the audience, which was crazy.
Wow.
Whoa, no, I really.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
That's the Radio Ranch Straight
Radio Ranch
Shooters.
Straight Shooters, yeah. And the band. It was a fun band. But Bill Bateman on drums and Skeeter. Actually, Skeeter from my first band was in that band too.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I didn't remember this until you mentioned it now. Like, I was already going to see you play before we even started to. Going specifically to hear you play. I remember when you were with Paul.
Oh, with Greenstein, yeah.
With the Radio Ranch Street Shooters. I'm trying to think of some of the clubs you would play around.
Yeah, we would play King. Some of our same clubs that we ended up playing, but.
But before I knew I was going to be needing a guitar player,
Well, I remember discussing it. You were writing some songs, and so we started talking about it. Maybe at that point or a little later.
It's funny. Some of this is just coming back to coming to the surface of my mind right now. I think what brought us, kind of drew us to each other. We all wanted to do something that was closer to some of the old records that we were listening to during that time period in the 80s. A lot of the bands had just a more updated approach to it. We didn't want to be like a modern version of it.
Yep.
We wanted to do whatever we could to sound like old records. Not that we always hit the mark, but that was our goal.
Yeah, use all the old equipment and play that's the same volume.
Yeah. On one of our shows, we had one of the episodes of West Coast Ramble. We talked about the whole '80s rockabilly scene, and a lot of fingers were pointing to that LA Rockabilly album as being an instrumental part of our musical youth. Musical youth.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It was,
is that the same for you?
Yeah. Because at that point I wasn't really collecting records, and my whole rockabilly, like what I knew about it, came from the Pooh Bah record store and their rockabilly record section, which is probably only that many LPs, and every once in a while, out of money, I'd go buy a compilation of Sun or something like that. But yeah, I mean, so that LA Rockabilly had how many songs is on that? Maybe a dozen or
Yeah.
Yeah, the James Enfield and the Billy Zoom. What does he do? Billy Zoom did Crazy Lovin'.
Yeah.
That stuff would just I mean, I thought that sounded pretty authentic at that point.
And I think, did you like the Shakin' Snakes?
Shakin'
cut
Snake
on
with
there?
Jeff Ross.
Yeah.
That's and some of those guys, they weren't really even. They just recorded that record. Did they even play out some of those lineups or?
We didn't know. It was just this mythical record. I mean,
Yeah.
I hadn't made all the contacts yet. I just knew this. Well,
Yeah.
so it felt exciting to hold the record in my hands.
There was a weekly thing at Club. Is it Club Lingerie?
Yeah.
That I didn't really. Did you ever make it? To
I did go. Art Fine.
I
would
think it
have
was a
his-
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Art Fine would have his night there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I started to meet more people. Got to know the Inveld brothers
Yeah.
better, and met Ray Campy, and that was a big deal. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
because my dad had already had the Rolling Rock records, and so I knew
so
Ray
your dad
from
had the
those.
Rolling Rock
Yeah,
stuff? Wow.
in the 70s.
So he
yeah.
really never got out of that style.
Well, once he saw that I was developing an interest in it, it pulled him even farther into it.
Wow.
So him and I would go record shopping
That's neat. Yeah.
on the weekends. But that pulled me deeper.
You got a jump start and all that stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's pretty cool. And they were based. That stuff like took place in Whittier or somewhere. I know the Rolling Rock, that whole scene.
It was like in the
Downey, maybe?
in the valley.
Oh, okay.
I think if you look on the address on the Rolling Rock label, there's a couple different addresses.
See, I didn't know. But I had a lot of that. Yeah.
But again, like, it was a different thing now. Now we've had a chance to play with a lot of some of the original artists.
Yeah.
We all have our fellow musician friends who are connected in the business. Back then, it was like these records were just these magic things.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about them as being real people. These were
Mythical. Yeah.
But think about all the people we could have seen if we had started to go out to
Yeah.
shows and venture out on our own. Before we went on the air, TK and I were talking about some of the things that were happening that we could have seen,
if we would have known a little bit more, yeah.
Like what you mentioned, like
Well, Jimmy Bryant, I think he had a benefit at the Palomino in the 80s, or maybe like 79 or 80. So if I would have known better, I could have easily went to his benefit, at least maybe met him. And then Cliffy Stone played for a long time. He had that open mic night, which I think Russell was involved with. That,
Russell used to do the talent
but
thing there.
I never made it there one time. I think I met Cliffy Stone maybe once or twice, at the Palomino.
Yeah.
If I may be so bold, Stefan Grappelli. I think that Quinn Millard said he saw Stefan Grappelli.
Yeah.
A lot of the giants were still walking the face of the earth at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also another Jimmy Weibel, the guitarist. He taught maybe 20 minutes from my house, and a lot of those guys like Smokey Hormel and Joey Altruda, they all took lessons from him. But they told me that you really need to read music, and I didn't really. But I would have paid him now. I would have paid him just to tell me stories for.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, kind of like we're doing now with you.
Nice.
Except we're not paying him. Yeah.
So like, it sounded like you had a good start. You were getting more and more grounded in the music, and I had, we had become pals, but I had my eye on you, like this guy, man, this somebody to watch, not knowing that one of the bands after the Moondogs that I played in, that the time would come where, actually it was with Tom Almanzar playing guitar. We played in, I guess it was like a couple different bands after the Moondogs.
Yeah,
Three bands.
So Rust and Strings, right?
Yeah, we started with the Rockin' Chairs, then the Rust
I don't
and
know about
Strings,
that,
and then the Shambles or Shambles in Spanish.
Okay, that was a great band.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing you guys.
We had fun with it, but honestly, it still wasn't exactly what I wanted. I mean, and I was, by that point, I was starting to mess around with writing my own songs. But it was my own songs, but in the style of these old records. And then when Tom told us that he wasn't gonna be playing anymore, or at least not with us, Wally and I thought, oh, what are we gonna do? And then, but you weren't too far away from the top of our minds. Do you remember the first time that we approached you about getting together?
It's probably at an Anti-Club, maybe, or I would say it was probably at a Russell Scott show. And
Yeah.
You were telling me, and I think you would maybe, at some point you had got, somebody was talking to you, well, it was probably Lee Joseph was talking to you about doing an LP or something, or when did that come about?
Well, that's a kind of a funny story because
so I remember the first time we talked, you'd kind of mentioned that you wanted to do a record or something, or
well, we were approached to do a record, and I didn't have a band, so I think, oh shoot, like I kind of bluffed my way through it. Oh yeah, we can do. I have all these songs ready to go, and
right.
But
you didn't have
but our guitar player had left, and however it came about, it was first suggested. I remember you and Wally and I would get together in my garage and just start, just jamming around on songs, and to me, it felt like it just, I don't know how it felt to you, but it really felt like it gelled. And,
easy. Yeah. And I remember even when we did like one of our first reunions, it just was so easy to play again. I remember.
It felt like you.
Whatever many, it was like 15 or 20 years later or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy band to play with.
What was your first show with the Fly Rite Trio, TK?
With Fly Rite Trio, I don't. We played at this Mandarin restaurant one time. That could have been the first.
That is
one.
the first one. Oh.
It was a
Did
weird.
Eddie Hill set it up or something?
It could have been. I remember a little flyer that somebody did, clip art, and was it in like
Was
I don't remember. I just vaguely
was it Orange
remember.
County?
It was somewhere by your house, like Anaheim or
Yeah, I think it was at
Hills or
Tustin.
something. Yeah, Tustin. Yeah,
I have a photo from there.
yeah. Was that the first gig? I mean, am I right?
It's the first photo I have. I think it's with Aldo.
Okay, yeah.
Aldo's playing?
Yeah, Aldo Moreno was actually the.
Maybe on only one show, or one or two shows.
Well, no, we played a few with Aldo. That was our first drummer before Will B.
Right.
And it's funny, as if I stand back away from this conversation, I would think like some of those two old men trying to remember all this stuff.
It is like that, and it's funny when you were talking. I think it was Ronnie Dawson, or we would meet old timers, every once in a while when we played back then, and I would ask them what rig they used on this recording, and they would never remember, and I just thought that was crazy. Like, how can you not remember what guitar you had or what amp? And
that always happened. How could they forget? That was 1958, not 1956.
Right.
How could they make that mistake? Right. Well, now I know. Yeah. And what we were doing, I never thought that anybody would be looking back and asking questions about it. Yeah, you just do it, right? So it's just a little bit of a funny thing. Going with that first little meeting, I already had a couple of songs. I remember High Billy Music was one of the songs that I heard. Yeah. You remember our friend Christoph?
Yes. I talk to him every once in a while.
Yeah. There's a cassette of us like messing around with this song. So
with you and Christoph?
Yeah. So I would have this song formulated in my head.
I wish you still had that recording. I would like to hear that.
Yeah. Actually.
Do you know Christoph?
Christoph Lorien?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard a song of his. He had a CD like of just some songs. Like I think Hot Tamales was one of them. Maybe, I don't know, but it was like
with him
20 years ago. It was just him, but he had a band that was similar to like a cool Western swing sound. But that's the only. I never met the guy, but
yeah. He's one of the first guys I saw like improvise over jazz.
Yeah,
we were at like a thing at, I think it was probably Eddie Nichols' house or something.
Okay. Yeah, him and I got together a couple times. Our friend Jake started palling around with him and brought me over. Oh, you got to meet this Christopher guy, this guy from France, and so we started jamming, and that was the first guy that I played with that I felt comfortable to bring more of my own music to the plate. With the Moondogs, I brought a couple of songs, but they already had their own thing. I was like a little bit of an outsider trying to lay what I was wanting to do over.
So you came into that
their
band
thing
at a later point, or did they have a singer before? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. My friend Ron was a singer, and then we just saw Robert at a party, and we thought, it'd be cool to have Robert in the band, and it was fun. Like we actually had some of our best shows when Robert was in there.
Yeah. And that was your first band that you were in?
That was my first band.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
But we have our guitars in hand. I wonder, would you mind going over? We can let's mess around with the High Billy Music.
Because I'm pretty rusty.
Okay, yeah.
And my hands is. Okay.
Well, I haven't done this song in a long time either. But no, let's just have fun, man. We're all here for fun, right? Well, let me tell you people about a brand new beat. It's called a Billy Music. Love to show his name. Well, it's high, Billy Music. It's a real gone country boogie with a beat. Well, it's real long gone, baby, just the way you like it. It's the only sound that rocks me off my feet. Well, I dig that sound. Well, it's going around. It's the best kind of music that I've ever found. Well, it's high, yes, it's high. Billy Music, talk to me, TK. Well, if you don't dig high Billy music, oh, then let me tell you, cat, you're just a square eye. 'Cause it's high Billy music. It's the sound that's sweeping around most everywhere. Yes, it is. Well, I dig that sound. Well, it's going round. It's the best kind of music that I've ever found. Well, it's high, Lord, high Billy music. Well, it's high Billy music. Well, it's a real gone country boogie with beat. Well, it's real long gone, baby, just the way I like it. It's the only sound that rocks me off my feet. Well, I dig that sound. It's going round. It's the best kind of music that I've ever found. It's high Billy music. It's high Billy music. Well, it's high Billy music. Well, high Billy music is the only sound for me. High Billy music.
Oh, man.
All right.
That's a tough one.
I liked it. Yeah, that was good. It's a tough. You mentioned something before we went into this. It said if my hand does it.
Yeah, so I have, it's called Dupuytren's contracture.
All right.
And, or Viking's disease. It causes your fingers to curl up. And I'm going to get surgery in probably about a month.
Okay.
And
all right.
hopefully it takes care of it.
Well, they can work wonders these days. Yeah, that'd be good. You sound fantastic, though, man. And,
Sew some new fingers on my hand.
What's that now?
But maybe they'll sew some new fingers.
Put an extra one on
I
there,
was gonna
maybe.
put Django's fingers on my fingers.
Wouldn't that be funny if you could select?
Yeah.
See, I'll take
plug-in.
Django's two good fingers.
Like a plug-in. Yeah, right. Jimmy Bryant's other two.
I did notice on that second solo that you did, like you were doing that run, and you obviously you weren't using all fingers. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, he's nailing each one just like Django did. How he would like go up. That
Well,
was
I mean,
cool.
he used mostly the two fingers, and yeah.
Well, that brings a question to mind to me. Like, so you were moved by Cliff Gallup, who is a great rock and roll player, but with jazz tendencies.
Yeah.
What was there a turning point for you that made you kind of open your ear up to more of the jazzier stuff, even farther than that?
Probably. I mean, you kind of started turning me on to that stuff. Like Jason would always put some bop stuff, and I mean, I really got into bop like shortly after I left.
Okay.
So like Smith's Ranch Boys, we would always try and play bop stuff in that band, but we never really do it. But so really, that's kind of where I've gone to since that time period. I've kind of just been stuck there with the bop stuff, like 52nd Street. And
Okay.
so if you could go back in time, where would you go, like to
a period of wow.
Yeah, to see music. Like,
Oh.
would you go to LA or where would you go?
I think so, just because there's this crossbreeding of musical
Yeah.
styles, and we've all heard the stories about some of the jazz and R&B musicians coming and playing with the hillbillies and
Yeah.
Western swing
Oh,
guys
yeah.
after hours.
Right.
But I think maybe a lot of other towns had things like that. But growing up in Southern California, we've heard a lot of those stories.
Yeah, we've seen flyers and stuff for that stuff. And
Yeah. Can you imagine what it would have been like?
Yeah.
Although I think there will be a time where the people who maybe there is now that wish they had been around when bands like ourselves were coming up. I think that's just how it works.
I was at a clothing store, maybe it was before COVID, so a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago, and there was a guy that I vaguely remembered him, but he had a collection of all the flyers from that time period. He had some, he had all the Fly Rite trio stuff and
Oh, all right.
and some later stuff, but he had some really early, just before the internet, when people would put out.
Did you save any?
I might have a couple. My mom did like a little scrapbook, and I have that somewhere. Of some of the early stuff.
As did my mom. My mom did a scrapbook too.
That's
Although,
fun. You still have it?
You know who has it? Our first Fly Rite trio band manager, Lloyd Martin.
Oh, he has it. Your
He
stuff?
said,
Oh, that's
my
fun.
mom asked me every now and then,
Can you get that back?
So what happened to that Lloyd guy? Yeah, I need to get my scrapbook back.
That's fun.
But it has all those early, band photos and
Yeah.
flyers from those days.
It was fun doing flyers. I mean, I'm kind of glad that we grew up pre-internet times.
Yeah, I mean, just pasting up, paste up flyers.
I mean, it was a lot of it was a little more difficult, but it was like we were talking about earlier, record collecting. We would go find these records and like, oh man, I hope there's a good guitar solo, or a lot of times there wouldn't be, but every once in a while you'd get home and go put it on. It was just some screaming guitar solo, or
yeah, it's tough not to get nostalgic about that period for us, though. Even though for me it's been an ongoing thing. To me, it's still
You're still
extension of the same
digging.
band.
Yeah.
It's just been through different phases.
yeah, of course.
But I'll meet younger people now. Now that you've established your name in different circles, with making the guitars and all the great things that you've been working on. People say, "Hey, do you know this T.K. Smith guy?" I go, "Yes, I know him." Yeah. And do you get questions about the Fly Rite stuff at all these days?
Occasionally, but a lot of times I'll tell people and they don't know I played with you.
Okay.
So that time period's, because it's only 2 CDs, and so you guys have done so much more stuff after that.
Yeah,
And evolved so much more.
two CDs, but that second one is pretty legendary. I'm not saying that I would never say that myself, but people talk about that way,
I'm
especially
proud
in
of that
Europe.
CD. I love
especially
that
in
CD,
Europe,
yeah. It's funny.
Do you remember that experience going out to record that?
Oh, yeah.
What stands out in your mind about? We went out to Valdosta, Georgia, to record our second LP, which is called
Yeah.
On the Go, which
Yeah.
in Europe is sort of people still they hold that in pretty high regard.
It's a great record. You wrote a lot of great songs for that.
Thank you. I'm still working.
You'll get it down one of these days.
What stands out in your mind about that experience going out to Georgia to record that?
Probably waiting 3 days before we could even record. Like, he was trying to get us fired up and taking us here, taking us there, and we drove all the way out there to record, and it was probably at least 3 days before we started recording anything.
And Mark Neal was the guy who produced it, and we recorded it at his studio. And he's another guy who's gone on to make a bigger name for himself.
He's actually back in Valdosta because he went.
He's back in Valdosta.
He came back to San Diego, but now he's back in Valdosta.
But what TK was just talking about is we drove all the way out there to Georgia. Big adventure for us, really.
Yeah, it's a long haul.
So he can't wait to get in the studio. We have all these new songs. So we're going to the studio each day, but there's always something. There's the thunder. We can't record today. He kept us there 3 days before we laid down the first note.
And later we found out that was his strategy.
It was by design.
Yes.
He wanted to build the tension.
Yeah.
So
we would
do you think
come
that
in.
worked?
I mean, we got stuff done, but it was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
No, I just had a question, TK, about guitar players. You mentioned about Levi Dexter and how you played for him. I didn't know that, Levi Dexter turned you on to so many different artists. Namely, I know Jason Goodman would hang out with Levi, and Jason learned about Django from Levi. And I remember when I saw Levi in '83, they opened up with minor swing, and it was Jeff Ross on guitar and John Jorgensen on guitar.
Yeah.
And Jeff told me that they didn't even know how to do the chords right. Like Levi had just kind of played it for him once, and they tried
That's
to
funny.
copy it. And now John Jorgensen is like one of the main
Yep.
Django players in the United States.
It's crazy to think
So-
about it. And yeah, I remember his band for a while. He had Joey Altruda on bass,
Yeah.
and Jeff Ross and John Jorgensen, and I can't remember who played drums, but yeah, that was a great band. I mean,
Oh,
This one that
yeah.
was just called Levi. The one
I think
it
you're
was just
right.
called
Yeah,
Levi.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at what point, like, did you? Because you know, like I told a story about our friend Melanie, and she had me try to do a Judy Garland song for her on guitar, and I tried, and I kind of hacked my way through it, and then she finally ended up having you do it with her, and she's all, yeah, he did it just like Cliff Gallup. It was awesome, and I'm all like, oh yeah, cool, Cliff Gallup, but like I didn't really know who Cliff Gallup was.
Well, I mean,
You
so
know?
I went through one stage where I just, you know, even when we started, he was still a huge part. You know, I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to, like, take what Cliff Gallup was doing, but, you know, maybe play something he would have played on a, you know, on like the Judy Garland song or whatever. You know, so I tried to take what he was playing for a long time and do it in my own way, but try
Yeah.
and sound like him. And because I, you know, for a while I had a duo jet and
Yeah.
I mean, some of our songs we were, you know, I wanted to try. There's some that didn't even come out, but I was trying to think. Was it Jake's Barbershot we did?
We did, there's an early version of that.
It was really kind of Cliff Gallup-y. I was trying to play.
Oh,
like
no, we
that.
were definitely, that's what we were aiming for, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, those recordings are.
Was that the second Big Sandy record that you were?
It was during that
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I knew
period.
about it on the first stuff, but yeah, we really. I mean, if you go back and listen to those recordings at Capitol, they're so. I mean, you remember? I remember one time we were somewhere in England and we played you know, some pub or something, but they had the DJ playing Cliff Gallup 10 times louder than we were, you know, and then we had to go on and play afterwards, you know. I was like, shit, how are we going to follow that?
But we did.
But we did, yeah.
But I remember, you know, by the time we got Bobby into the band, and that was after Aldo in the very beginning, and then Will Brokenburr. Then we got Bobby Trimble, who was just remember he was just
was
hanging
just like a
around,
helper,
you know,
yeah.
helping Will move his drums like a little roadie,
Yeah.
but he knew all the songs. He was waiting for
Yeah.
that moment, like, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
And then when Will stopped coming to rehearsals, and
Yeah.
I think he missed a show, and Bobby was there
Yeah.
and stepped in.
He stepped up too. man.
But
He was a
but
good
would that
guy.
fit in with our the whole Blue Caps Gene Vincent thing? Because you know, I know we did some of those barn dances at the Palomino where Bobby would play standing up,
Yeah.
but he'd be bopping around and he could do the shouts in the background like a you know
Dickie Harrell.
like Dickie Harrell, yeah. But there were certain songs of ours that we really were going for the
Yeah.
Blue Cap feel.
Yep.
That's right. Like which ones? Well, I mean, even
Let Me Love
but
You.
even off the.
Let Me Love You Right. Or,
Oh yeah, but even like you know.
is Let Me Love You Right? Is that on the go or?
No, it's on the first one. Fly Right with.
Oh, yeah. It's man. How far apart are those? A couple years or?
Well, we started messing around with Fly Right with in. Oh, it was '89 we recorded it.
We really recorded that before we had a show, huh? Or we were working on it before we had our first
Yeah, because
show.
remember I had told Lee Joseph
Yeah.
that for Dionysus Records, oh yeah, we're ready to
Yeah.
go. We got an album worth of material, but we didn't. So we
Yeah.
just got on the ball, started writing songs, picked
Yeah.
out some good covers, and we started rehearsing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was handy at that time too because I worked in Fullerton at my dad's test laboratory, so it was you know, they were just in Anaheim, so it was. I remember I'd spend the night at your house a lot of times.
We worked a lot on the songs. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he said, TK lived. Was working right. Yeah, right
Yeah.
down the road. You know, not too far from the old where the Fender
Right by
factory.
yeah,
was.
right across
Yeah.
the strawberry field from the Fender building on Acacia.
So yeah, he would after work we would meet up for Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd work on the songs and then go out for tacos, and then he would spend the night at the house, and it was a lot of working on music.
And I remember recording some songs for like working on one song for a week, doing especially on that first record, we would record.
Well, we made our first attempts at recording were at Tim Mack's studio in Fullerton, who had recorded with Mike Ness, Social Distortion. It's kind of become a legendary spot where Tim Mack's studio was.
That was a fun time
in downtown Fullerton.
Remember we would start recording at like 2 a.m. because there was a mariachi band.
There was there was an old bar, which is the Continental Room.
Yeah. Shared a wall.
Continental Lounge.
Shared a wall with it. Continental Lounge.
But it was like a Mexican bar, and there was a mariachi band that would play till a certain time, and we couldn't record while the band was playing because the music would bleed through into the studio. But I think two of the songs we recorded there are actually did make it onto the
Moonshine Rhythm.
The Moonshine. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And
it's a kind of slower song.
And another one. Yeah, Wally has a couple of good songs on that album.
I really like. Did Wally write that one? Moonshine Rhythm?
Yeah.
I like that kind of wacky version we did of that. We never really played that song live though.
It was one of those songs that never translated to a live situation. But the rest of it, we were talking about this before we started filming. The rest of the album was recorded at Wally's grandmother's house.
Yeah.
And we were both trying to visualize what it looked like then.
You said that was Tustin or Costa Mesa? Or?
It was in Villa Park.
Oh, okay.
Which at the time I think it was like the wealthiest city per capita in the nation.
I didn't know that Villa Park. Yeah. I mean that property. It was a big property too. It was maybe an acre or a couple acres or something.
I wonder what's there now. Did they probably
built 10 homes?
They probably 10 homes on it right now.
$5 million homes.
But anyway,
Like I have a question, like TK, like when you did that second album, did you noodle up, like did you have all the solos already planned and woodshedded, or did you just?
at that point I was pretty much. I had certain parts made up, but a lot of it I was just trying to improvise. Because I kept hearing stories of Jimmy and Speedy and Jimmy Weibel. I heard the story of Jimmy Weibel never played the same solo twice, and I was always fascinated by that. But
no way.
But it's just I never got to that level, but. I would work certain things out, but then there was sections where if I was having a good night, I could improvise, and I would have safety solos that I could fall back on if I was starting to suck.
Well, your safety solos were like at a high level.
Well, actually, the safety solos were all like copied from somebody else, so they were like
Junior Bernard or
better
something.
than my improvised solo.
Well, no, they were better. They were just it was. I know what you mean, though. There were things that we could all fall back on, though.
Yeah.
But I've always told people that they say, well, I like the first album. No, I like your guys' second album. But I always thought that we did have magical nights that were never captured. I said, well, our best moments never even made it on the tape.
So,
man.
What would you think? Like, what's your one of the shows you remember the most?
Well, just because we were doing it regularly, I remember some of the nights at Toast Tavern. Going off.
Yeah.
Just because we had it's a good thing if you're a young band to have a residency to be playing every week, and
you just get I've never been in a band since that band that got to that level to where you really have to play 5 or 6 nights a week to get to that, to where you can just feed off each other, and like you can't play once a week, or at least I couldn't play once a week and have anything that's that tight.
Well, we were taking every opportunity we could to play, whether it be going jamming down at the beach, acoustically, for busking as they call it, or sometimes somebody would see us doing that and hire us for. Remember, we got hired for some other gig at some place called Pink's or something.
But
one thing would lead to another.
I remember that, and that bar, the beers were $4, so none of our crowd went.
That was a pretty hefty price at the time.
Nice.
I mentioned Toast Tavern. Remember free pizza? That was such a fun thing.
Gig. Okay, so I remember this gig. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no.
It was at Raji's, and I remember we played Europe for like 30 days. I think we played Europe with crap. We had horrible amps, and I think Wally borrowed a bass, and we had a different drum set every night. And we finally got back. We were playing 30 nights in a row, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we came back, and we just had our own equipment, and I think we opened up for High Noon, or we shared the bill with High Noon, and we were just
We kind of destroyed it that
it
night.
was just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other people, maybe was it Dave Stuckey or other people have mentioned that night at Raji's. You're right. You're right. That was our first show back from the big European tour, and yeah.
I can remember I playing solos, and I wasn't even thinking what I was playing, but I could think, I could think of a solo ahead of what I was playing. It would just come out,
Yeah.
I've never really been to that point ever since then.
It's one of those magical things. When everything is clicking, this other thing happens where you're like elevated into the,
That's when if you could do that every night, I would play music. Even if I didn't get paid, I would play every night.
Yeah.
I don't, who needs money?
Yeah,
Couldn't get that.
yeah. It's something. It just has to be like the perfect storm, like a few different elements that come together, and everything has to be just right.
I think one thing, we had our own gear. Well, he had his own bass, and I had my own amp, and that was fun.
Yeah, and it was good to feel like we were all on the same page, kind of
Yeah.
focused on the same goal. Musically, even though we each had our own influences.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just worked out, And then Bobby was an important part of that group because he was into a lot of different kinds of music that
Yeah.
he ended up bringing into.
Yeah, Bobby
turned us on
probably, he turned me on to a lot of the bop stuff.
Yeah.
Because he would make, I don't know where I guess he collected records, but he would make some I remember we would always make compilations of our records that we found.
I missed that part of traveling. Now you go on the road and everybody's has their own music on their, with the
No one's talking
earbuds
to each
and
other.
it was to have the road tapes, man.
Yeah.
You're all forced to listen to the same music, but it really helps, and you hear some of those solos from the songs you listen to pop up in that night's show.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing,
It's funny. Yeah, it was good times, man.
So what was the first Fly Rite trio tour for you guys?
I mean,
And what was the
Fly Rite
lineup?
Trio didn't really tour that much.
Well-
but Europe probably, huh?
Well, yeah, Europe was our first.
Himsby.
Yeah, we played at Hemsby at the Hemsby Rock and Roll Weekend.
Yeah.
We got a write up in Now Dig This magazine,
Yeah. That's it.
which led to Tom Ingram.
Yeah, that's right.
Finding out about us and giving. That was before Tom moved to the U.S. to start Viva Las Vegas.
Oh wow.
Yeah, invited us over there, and that opened up a whole new world for the band.
And our LP was pretty new. I mean, the first one was pretty new at that point, I think. Right? I mean,
Yes, but DJs in Europe,
They already have.
particularly like Mouse, DJing in the UK, where he started playing some tracks off of our first album,
Yeah.
and that introduced people to.
Yeah. No, I remember waiting in line at Himsby trying to get in, or we just got out of the bus and there was people in their 50s cars pulling up and playing our music.
Yeah, what a trip, man.
Was that the 30-day tour?
We
Europe?
went over there a few times. I don't know if
That
the
first one wasn't. The first one we just went.
maybe for
We
that
just
show
played
or
Hemsby,
something.
and we might have done one after show
Yeah.
that Barney set up or something.
Yeah, I was trying to think how many times we went over there. It was with just that lineup. At least 4 or 5 times probably, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah, sleeping on a lot of floors and
The 30-day one,
you know how it is, Paul.
we stayed at Barney's house most of the time.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think we had a lot of days off though. Like we'd usually play the weekends. So I didn't like having days off, just kind of sitting around.
Yeah, for me it's hard because I kept doing that up until last year.
crazy.
So it kind of some of it blends together. You probably have more specific memories about those first few tours.
With that lineup, I went over there a couple times with Smith's Ranch Boys, but not like Fly Rite Trio stuff that we did. I would usually go over there for just one show.
So I mentioned the weekly shows that we were doing at a place in Pasadena called Toast Tavern.
Yeah.
Now there was something that happened at one of those shows where Morrissey showed up. Actually, we were the one week we weren't there. We used to do it. Was it Thursday night? Pizza night? Was it? Do you remember which night of the week?
Thursday was Blue Saloon, I want to say, but I'm not sure.
But one night of the week we'd play there. But we had gone up to San Francisco to do something, so we missed our weekly spot there. But the next week we came back. We were told that, oh man, Morrissey was here last week to see you guys, and like what? That I knew the name, but I didn't grow up being into the Smiths. I know you are, knew all their music very well, Paul.
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about it. I just know that our friend
I didn't know that much about
Boz
it.
Borer was, playing with Morrissey when he started to do the solo stuff. But anyway, that's where he approached us about going on tour with him, which ended up being the last thing that we did together.
Right. I left pretty shortly after that.
Do you remember? What an overwhelming feeling it was to go from just playing in little places like the Blue Saloon to be playing like at a stadium the next, a few days later?
That was weird. I mean, it wasn't my favorite thing. I mean, I love playing like Dollhead, and it just was hard for me like to connect. I was just so in front of such a big audience. I was so like just kind of nervous, and I just played super safe. I couldn't really improvise, I just had to play on my safe solos.
And for people who might not know, this was in 1992.
92.
We did our first show with Morrissey. It was on the Your Arsenal tour. We played at Del Mar at the racetrack.
That's right. That was the first.
It was on Halloween.
Yeah.
And then we did like a month of day. We played across the country. We went out to the East Coast, and it was like you're saying, playing small room like the Doll Hut or the Blue Saloon to playing whatever the local sports arena was.
I remember doing the sound check. I think it was in Texas, and just playing Travis picking and hearing it bounce off the back wall, and just seeing it was just such a long delay by the time the sound got back to you. The room was so big.
What was like the feeling that you just knew that you were done? Like you kind of went from the small shows to a really big tour with a really big star, but like what really kind of turned you off as a musician and like just walk away from a big tour like that?
Well, I mean, I just, I really enjoyed, we would, I think we had a weekly thing at Dollhead, right? Or was it Monday night or something? Uh-huh. And just, if you've ever been to the Dollhead, it's not much bigger than this living room, but the people are right in front of you. It's just so much, like you can get that feedback, like when you're playing, and it was just really hard. Like, the big shows, the crowd was so, you can't even see the crowd because the lights, they're so, the first persons,
you could feel them though when they were throwing coins at us.
I remember
only in the first show I remember that at Del Mar people were throwing stuff at us.
It was funny though, that show, because Morrissey's crowd is so young. A lot of their parents would bring them, so the parents would come up to us afterwards and say, "Wow, we loved you guys."
That's awesome.
And then we get a few phone numbers, and no. Well, to me, you're right. It was not like playing the small clubs, and that's where it's at, man. Playing Monday nights at the Doll Hut, the worst night of the week, right, to have a regular gig. But we built that into a thing. We were like the kings of that little world, man. Yeah. And it felt so good. Audience, you could feel the sweat flying off of people when they're dancing.
I remember people waiting outside. When one person would leave, they would let one other person in. And we made good money at that club.
The same sort of thing that happened to supermarkets this year.
Oh, right.
But to me, I think maybe it was like for me, I was enjoying all the other stuff that went with it. Like, there's no way to connect with an audience like that. I remember Morrissey even trying to give me suggestions. No, don't think of individual people. Think of it all as one thing, and you play. He's telling me to play with the audience. Just to think in paint in broader strokes, which is not what we're about. What we were about as a band. But it was fun to meet whatever local, find what little rockabillys were in town and hang out afterwards. I remember, some fun. Going to other bars and.
I think too, doing a show. I've always didn't think of myself as a performer. Like Robert's a performer, but like I couldn't. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I do.
If the sound was bad, I couldn't fake being happy, or put a fake smile. I remember seeing the Collins kids at somewhere in Europe, and it was just the monitor was just screaming the whole. For 2 songs, and they were just smiling and putting on a good show. It was impossible for me to do that.
So to your question, Paul, there wasn't any one moment. It was just sort of the overall thing. If not, you just knew it wasn't what you wanted.
That's kind of the goal, to play for a huge audience like that and not enjoying that. It's like, I just thought, I better do something else,
Well, because it's, we have never really sat down and talked about this stuff, because everything was, okay with us afterwards. There was never any, hard feelings or anything. We've been friends all through the years, but we've never had the sit down moment like, so
Why was that?
Yeah.
I guess we really haven't. Huh?
But there wasn't any. I didn't know. I've always wondered, was there some like a bad thing that happened, or just the deal just wasn't what you wanted? And
I mean, it just like a smaller club. If you have a bad show and it doesn't sound good, it's easier to let's take a break. We'll come back. Sometimes you come back for a second set or a third set. And you just try and like start it up.
Yeah.
But there, and also didn't like. We had the same set that we stuck to, which you kind of have to do when you play a huge show like that. Just sticking to the same set because we would just kind of. A lot of times we wouldn't even have a set list. It was just whatever you felt the audience wanted.
That's probably one of the very few times. Their tour is probably the last time I ever
had a set list.
Stuck to a set list. And I feel bad for the guys I played with over the years because it's nice to know what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
But I've always been one to have maybe a master list. I just call them off
what you feel
as we go based on how the audience is. Yeah. And there's a lot of the details of it that I don't remember.
I mean, I've had other bands too, which none of the other bands I've been in have played that much to where we got to that level of not needing a set list or just playing off the audience. We would play like maybe once a month or a couple times a month.
Yeah.
You can't really get to that.
And some nights that can work beautifully because some wonderful things can happen if you're not restricted to a set list. Yeah. But other times, I look back and think, we could have used the list because
you listen back. There's some dead space for
like no.
Can you tell us what was it like for you leaving that tour and going home? Like, were you relieved, or what did you have next on your plate right after?
I'm trying to think what I did right after that. I mean, I'm not really. I just I was always into just building stuff, and that was one thing. Like being on tour, I missed the projects that I had going on at home, Because shortly after that, I started doing these 60s style surfboards, and I just, I'm always building stuff, even now. But
I guess maybe not because I asked you if you get many questions about the Fly Rite days, but I have had people approach me who aren't necessarily fans of rockabilly or the kind of music, but they've contacted me just because they want to know about the Morrissey connection. Have you ever gotten any questions about that?
Not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while I'll talk to. I saw what's the guitar player? Is it Alan Day or? Yeah, I met him recently.
Alan,
ran into him.
Alan White.
Alan White. Yeah, super nice guy, man. Yeah, but I hadn't seen him in years.
Yeah.
He's writing some songs now. I think he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think he's done all right for himself. Yeah, I'll get messages from him every now and then Boz.
He's in Hollywood too, right?
What's that?
He lives in LA.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe I mean, Paul,
I don't know.
But then Boz, who and actually I think it was his wife, Boz's wife Lynn Borer, who actually she was the one who put us together with Morrissey. He kind of led to us being with his wife. She's always been a big fan. Yeah, Lynn. Yeah. But we still get to see them all over different places in the world.
That's funny.
Lynn and Boz, they're good people. Want to play another song?
Sure.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
Well, I have to tell you, you really encouraged me, and this is an example of that. I was when I first started writing songs, it can be a tentative thing, like you listen to this old music and you feel like you can never live up to any of the original stuff. But this is one of the first times I got a compliment on one of my own songs that I had written. It was from you and on I Love You But I'm Gonna Leave.
Oh yeah, it's a great tune, man.
Yeah. Let's play it. Is that okay?
We'll try it. I'll see how.
Right. Do you remember that though? Do you remember telling me what an awesome song it is?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I love a lot of your songs.
I'm teasing him a little bit. But, let's see. You want to? Take. You better listen here, woman. Things just ain't right. Been thinking about it most every night. Don't wanna cause a big fuss or a fight. I really don't want you to grieve, but there's a whole lot of places I'd like to go. Whole lot of women women I'd like to know. I've been afraid to let it show. Love you, but I'm gonna leave. Because I love you too much, baby, or to let you ever be my wife. 'Cause I'm no good, don't think you should have to live that kind of life. There's a whole lot of places I'd like to go, whole lot of women I'd like to know. I've been afraid to let it show. I love you, but I'm gonna leave. Yeah, yeah. Should have to live that kind of life. There's a whole lot of places I'd like to go, whole lot of women I'd like to know. I've been afraid to let it show. I love you, but I'm gonna leave. I love you, but I'm gonna leave. I love you, girl, but I'm gonna leave. Yeah.
Very nice.
That was
very
very
nice.
sweet, man.
That's such a great song, man.
Oh, I'm still working on it.
You can, one of these days you're gonna get it.
One of these days.
I have faith in you.
One of these days.
Oh,
Remember that one?
yeah, I do remember that one.
Yeah.
Latin beat kind of, right?
Yeah.
Did we record that song?
We did a version of it at our second return on our return to Valdosta, back to Mark Neal's studio.
Oh, that's right.
And it didn't.
When we were with Morrissey, right?
On the Morrissey tour. During that Morrissey tour, we did
Yeah.
an unknown recording session in
I remember
Valdosta.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recorded Water Baby Boogie too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
That's
else?
funny. Did that ever come out? on
Oh, we
anything?
did a version of Gabby, the Hepcat Records put out On the Go with the
Oh, the extra bonus
bonus
tracks.
tracks,
Yeah, I think I've heard it, but it's been so long, I don't even remember that.
yeah.
It's weird.
I'm sure you've heard it. You're like, hey, where's my money, buddy?
Where's my dollar?
Oh man. So that kind of ended up parting ways musically. You did some great stuff, like you mentioned with the Smith Ranch Boys. Are there any other projects that you've done since then, or maybe?
Well, I mean, after Smith's Ranch Boys, I was in San Diego when we did that, and then when I moved back to LA, I did Bone Break Syncopators.
I love the
while.
Bone Break
DJ
Syncopators.
Bone Break.
Yeah,
That was a
big
fun
fan.
band.
Good Lord, that was great. Yeah.
That he's he's on another level. But
DJ
with Jeremy-
Bone Break
and with Jeremy
for the band
Wakefield.
X, drummer for the band X, a great vibe player, man.
Lionel Hampton, he's really play all the bop stuff. And
Who was in that lineup when you were playing?
so
with them?
we started with no drums, and it was just Jeremy Wakefield and DJ, myself, and Wally on bass.
yeah, that band.
That band for about a year. We had a weekly gig at a place, Sunset. I'm trying to think of the cross street. I think it was Atwater, maybe, or it was a little coffee shop, and we played that once a week. So we got pretty tight for about a year, but it was a fun gig. But there was maybe 5 people would show up.
Oh,
But it was basically just a rehearsal, pretty much.
but
But we recorded a few things, but nothing really.
nothing saw the light of day, or
What's that?
did anything?
Stuff came
You
out.
put a-
Yeah, it's Bone Break Syncopators. I think Stucky's on it too.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah, I got a recording that Wally gave me
Yeah.
And it's a small little CD. But
Oh, yeah.
And Wally's all, I don't like the way this thing sounded, and I'm all, this is amazing. What do you mean you don't like the way it sounded? It was great stuff.
They did another one too with Jonathan Stout on guitar after I moved to the desert. Who,
Yeah,
man,
there's a
that
different
guy,
incarnation of
that guy's a really good guitar player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's good.
I heard he wants to fight you, though.
I love a pinky fight.
No, that's a running joke on the show. Although, a funny thing, a joke is supposed to be funny, but that joke isn't.
It's not funny. Yeah, right.
Are you ready for jokes?
Yeah, what is it?
No. We do a joke segment on the show, but we won't. I guess we won't have that.
Not today.
Yeah.
As long as I don't have
Last
to
time.
tell them.
Well, I feel like the guys have been throwing in some good questions there. Before I move on to our last little phase here, is there anything you guys want to ask Tim about?
No, man, I think we got everything covered. I just wanted to quickly mention about, if people look at in the background, the house, I want people to know that you are a craftsman and you basically redid the whole house. Like, did you even make the furniture too?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been here going on 18 years, and that we redid the whole house. But yeah, I just pretty much made all the furniture and not everything. I mean, there's stuff store bought too, but a lot of the cabinetry and stuff I did.
Yeah. So like, and just quickly, if you could go over, I know that you came out here to the desert and you were making cabinets and furniture, wasn't it?
Yeah. So when I first moved out here, I got a job in a cabinet shop just because just to get a job, and have something to do while I was out here. But I did that for about maybe 6 months, and then I found out I could do that on my own, and so I started my own cabinet shop, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and then I got into guitars,
So, okay, and so I know quickly, I want to know more about the guitars. And every time we come in here, I'm amazed. There's always like some other like big rock star or something that stopped by your shop. And like, could you drop a few names?
Well, I mean, luckily I got some pretty good publicity, But no, I mean, yeah, I have some pretty good customers.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
happy.
Could you tell the story quickly of like how Jack White stopped by your shop? That was
Well, so Rancho de la Luna is out here, and that's Eagles of Death Metal and all those guys, and
Okay, yeah.
Dave Catching, he runs that, and he's a good friend of mine. And this was probably 2 years ago, before COVID.
yeah.
And I got a text and say, "Hey TK, you mind if I bring Jack White by?" And so he came by the shop, and it was funny. He's a super nice guy. He's really, he's into a lot of stuff, but he's into the vintage stuff too. He's all into vintage recording gear.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had a lot of
Yeah.
similar stuff.
And your wife Jill, the beautiful hometown jerseys. That's her operation. But
Yeah, so
I know
she's-
they have a connection there.
Yeah, so they started using Third Man Records, and a lot of the Jack White stuff, they use her jerseys for the merch, and
Oh, right
so she's
on.
busy doing that.
Wow.
TK, I don't mean to keep harping on it, but I am just really fascinated about you walking away from that tour. And was there any time after where, Big Sandy and the Fly Rite boys got pretty big and they're blowing up? Were you really at peace with it? You this was not for me, these big crowds, or did you kind of ever regret it?
Not really. I mean, I'm more of I always felt of myself as more of a hobbyist guitar player, So shortly after I left that band, I started Smith's Ranch Boys. We moved to San Diego pretty shortly after, but that was a fun band because everybody worked. And another thing too about music is I'm pretty hard on myself. So if I had a bad show and then we wouldn't play for a week, I would just be in a horrible mood for a week. I know other guitarists I've heard of like that too. But a lot of musicians are like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you made. It was tough when it happened, but I think you made the right decision for yourself. I think I've seen with you more and more. You thrive when you can create the situation that you want. Just like here, like doing everything in the house.
And you guys went on too, also to just you guys kind of took it
things
to.
were great, and it's been a really nice ride. And it's just you look back, okay, that's just what happened. That's the way it was supposed to go. It was felt like just a ride that I was following. Rolling with different things along the way.
Yeah. No regrets. I just I don't really have any regrets.
No, well, I mean, like I said at the time, it's like, oh, damn, but I respect you for,
Yeah.
You have your standards, and if it's not how you want to be, you don't stay with it. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of factors that are out of your, like if the sound's not good in a room, so when you practice these songs and you want them to be perfect, but then to have the sound guy have the drums blaring or just some little stupid thing or something's feeding back, and it's just frustrating when you practice so much and then you have that 1 hour to play a show and it just doesn't work out.
That makes a lot of sense, man.
yeah.
I would say though, TK, I mean, like, you've been able to do all your crafts and all the other things you do with your hands, which are amazing. But playing guitar, I mean, I'm glad that we got all the recordings, the Bone Break Syncopators, the 2 Big Sandy albums, all the, the other stuff that you did. And so at least it's all on. It wasn't like going out to the air, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
good
No, you
recordings
didn't.
of all that stuff.
And I will say too, I would never trade that time for anything. I'm so glad that I did that, because some of
Yeah.
my favorite times I've,
Yeah.
doing some of those shows that we talked about, like Raji's, and I'll never forget that stuff,
Yeah. And as a guitar player, guys are always like stealing licks from, like, I know other guitar players, like we did a video here a long time ago, and a friend of mine, he's all, hey man, you cut away from his hands when he was doing that solo. I wanted to see what he was doing, So,
Well, I probably stole it from somebody else. So.
That's how it
that's
goes.
fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, nothing's new again.
That's all right.
But well, I think you've left a legacy recorded and otherwise that you could be very proud
No,
of.
thanks,
so
Robert.
it's really an honor for you to have us here with us on the show.
Oh, yeah.
No, thanks
We've
for
been
coming
looking
out,
forward
man.
to it even before you knew you were going to do it.
No, I'm glad I'm doing it. I mean, hopefully my hand surgery works out.
And just man to man, I have to tell you, whenever your name comes up, and it does a lot, in circles of people outside of my usual, group of friends that I have, and I'm always proud to say that, longtime friend, and I'm proud to know you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, man. Same
I
here.
really appreciate it. Buddy.
Same here, man. Yeah.
Hey, how about playing us out with a song?
One. Do you want to count it so it's the tempo's more?
2, 1, 2, 3.
I've been treating you too for much too long. I keep doing you right, you keep doing me wrong. Wanna change my tune now, I wanna say so long. Oh baby, you done gone.
Baby, you done gone.
You done a number on me. Baby, you done gone. You done a number on me. So now listen to me, mama, I'm gonna set you free. Rock. You played the field while I played the fool. You played the field while I played the fool. But now listen to me, baby, I'm gonna treat you mean and cruel. Oh, baby, you done gone. You done a number on me. Baby, you done gone. I'm Muhammad Ali. Oh, now listen to me, mama, I'm gonna set you free. Well, bye, baby, bye, bye, bye. Oh, well, bye, baby, bye, bye, bye. Oh, well, bye, 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 bye. Yeah, bye, baby, baby, bye. Oh, now listen to me, honey, I'm gonna set you free.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I had the time of my life. Thanks for opening up your home to all of us here. I know there's a lot of, setting up all the equipment and everything. It's really been cool, man. And I have to say this, though. I know you were a little concerned because you've been having that situation with your finger. You sounded excellent, man. And thanks for just
man.
going ahead and doing it. He didn't have to do that. I think you're really ace for that, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks a lot, TK.
It's great to see you,
Thank you,
man.
buddy.
Yeah. Anytime.
I'll-
You're welcome anytime, man. Come
Okay, tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right, let's throw it back to Tom and Paul there.
All right, we're across the room. And hey, man, thanks, TK, for letting us come on over for I think this is the third time West Coast Ramble's been over here.
Yeah.
And I learned something new every
Thanks
time.
for coming out, man.
Yeah. So, and I guess this is it, Paul. What do we got coming up
Yeah,
next?
Ramblers, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep your eyes peeled for when our next show might be. This guy will probably know before we do.
But on the 26th, Paul, what's happening?
we got the Barnyard. What's it called? The Barnyard Boogie.
The Barstow Barn.
Barstow Barn Dance.
Easy for you guys to say.
So, anyways, yeah, and we just, so Big Sandy's going to be DJing, and our band, the Deluxe Brothers, are playing, and Little Sue and the Cow Tippers are playing. 2 hours outside of LA, 2 hours from Las Vegas, right in the middle. Come check it out, the Barstow Barn Dance. You can check our site for information. But that's
Thanks a
all
lot,
we got to say.
everybody. Thanks
It's
again.
free.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.